Why do they only focus on race on the left?
I guess it's because that's proven to be a politically popular thing to do.
Okay, welcome back to the second half of this video. So we were watching, or I was looking at a video of Thomas Sowell on Fox News a little while back, and he was talking about why the left focuses so much on race.
Dr. Sowell, when we talk about equality, immediately race pops into mind. It's always about race, racial discrimination, about the founding of the nation, white dominant society, so forth and so on. And you make the case, and you've made this case throughout your life, but it's very poignant in your book, which is, wait a minute, of course this has some impact, but it's not the only thing that has an impact. But why, first of all, what other things have an impact? It's probably an infinite list of things. And secondly, why do they only focus on race on the left?
I guess it's because that's proven to be a politically popular thing to do. But in point of fact, one of the things that's mentioned in the book is a study that was done by the New York Times, of all people, some years ago, where they tried to show the 10 poorest counties in the United States. And they mentioned which ones they were and so on. It turns out that 6 of those 10 counties had a population that was from 90% to 100% white. Now, in the New York Times, they didn't mention the race of the people, but once they told me the counties, I looked it up. And in fact, I followed the average income in those 6 counties over a span of 50 years. And in all those 50 years, all 6 of those counties had a median income lower than the median income of Black Americans. Now, and so the people in those counties faced zero racism because they were white and indistinguishable from all other whites. They didn't have a legacy of slavery, and yet there they were. You have to ask then, clearly there must be other things that cause poverty. We can't just assume that because people of a given race have more poverty than some other people, that race must be the reason. But this has become the automatic kind of thing, and I think most people would be quite surprised. One of the things that happens is that behavior matters, and you see that in so many different ways. For example, I think most people would be surprised to learn that despite the fact that blacks as a whole have a higher poverty rate than whites as a whole, Black married couple families have for more than a quarter of a century, every single year, had a poverty rate under 10%. And in most of those years, the national poverty rate was not as low as 10%. So it's not and you say, well, this is due to institutional racism. In that case, does that mean that the racists make an exception for blacks who are married? I mean, do racists either know or care whether blacks are married? None of these glib explanations stands up to the slightest empirical study.
And let's talk about this when it comes to minorities generally. You have an Asian population in this country that achieves a lot as a group, intellectually, education-wise, and they are discriminated against by these Ivy League colleges, by Harvard. We just had a Supreme Court decision and so forth, the way Jews were 100 years earlier, by Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and so forth. So the people who push this race issue, is it that they really care about black people or Asian people or Jewish people, or is it that it's just another wedge issue to try and destroy this culture and destroy this society?
There are some people who are both. Some really believe it, and I feel sorry for them. But there are some who really don't care. If it gets them elected, that's what matters. And this is one of the tragedies of trying to politicize race. there are so many fallacies that it's hard to even know which one to take up. But for example, the great narrative is that blacks rose from poverty, got into professional occupations as a result of the 1960s social welfare programs, and that this has been a big benefit. One of the problems with this way of looking at things is that everything depends on when you pick as the start of this trend. If you go back to 1940, that is 20 years before these wonderful things are supposed to have happened in the 1960s, and you discover that the degree to which blacks were in poverty declined from 87% in 1940 to 47% in 1960. So it went down by 40 points in those 20 years. Now you look at the 20 years following 1960, they went down 18 points. And so the trend did not begin in the 1960s. The trend was there before then, and the trend did not even accelerate after 1960. Many people think that it would all began with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Well, that was a fine act to get rid of the segregation laws in the South. But the cold fact is that the percentage of blacks who had professional occupations doubled from 1954 to 1964. That is in the decade ending at the time that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed. If you look at the things that are negative, like, for example, black children being raised in single-parent households. In 1940, just under 17% of black kids were raised in one-parent families. But after 1960s, before the end of the century, 4 times that many, 68% of black kids were being raised in one-parent families. And that does not depend on racism or any of the other things they talk about. It depends upon things that happened due to the policies of the 1960s, which are still going forward.
Which encourage the dissolution of the family. It's just unbelievable.
Like, I agree with Thomas, and when, you know, he said this before, that when you keep the focus, see, they're looking for votes. Black people overwhelmingly vote Democrat. So if the Democrats all of a sudden decided to just not make it about race anymore, if they just stop with that narrative and move forward to something totally different, black people, which is their base, would get upset and not vote. So it is imperative to the Democrats to continue this false narrative of being in a racist country.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans don't really need black people to vote for them.
It's very true.
Democrats do. If the black vote starts to decline, which is why I believe all these illegal immigrants are coming in, is because they're trying to replace us.
Yes.
Because they realize maybe we might wake up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Particularly right now, since Trump is gaining on black votes, because, you know, I think the best thing that ever happened to Trump was that he lost. Yeah. Because now people see what happens when you let just liberal, far-left liberals run a country. You have illegal immigrants just running in here. Your gas prices are high. Inflation goes up. We're over here fighting, you know, going into other people's countries.
Grocery stores are empty. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, so now that they see that, now they're like, oh... Immigrants aren't going to Barack Obama's neighborhood. They're going to black neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods and all those, you know. So
and utilizing the benefits too, by the way, the welfare and stuff like that.
Republicans need independence. Yeah, and they also need Republicans to vote.
So Republicans never focus on the. They
don't have to.
They don't focus on the race thing because they don't really have to. Because they don't really need the black vote.
Honestly, like I say, even as a person that is black and happens to be a conservative, I don't care that black people always think like somehow I'm trying to get you to be a Republican. I'm not. I don't care that you ever become one. What I'm trying to get you to do is to think. Yeah. Think. I'm trying to you can call me all the names you want, but I'm pushing you to think outside of this little mental box.
Research.
Right. Research. So you can still be a Democrat, but still research. Because when you research and you open your mind and you start to see things, you have a different perspective on things. To call me names doesn't change anything, but to actually get up and look at some other things and maybe challenge your own narrative, the one that's been implanted to you in public school, in churches, because black churches are all about social justice. Most of them are. The great majority of them are. You go to a public school, which is the state, teaching you all about black history. You know what I mean? Like, challenge your own narrative. And to see that, you know what I mean? And the thing is you'll find that black people are a little bit more, they were a lot more successful before we had the civil rights movement than after.
Which is what we were talking about before with the other, you know, situation is that I think it's time for us to look at that timeline though. And I feel like that's where we're missing, and the black people are neglecting to really research that timeline.
And we're like the guinea pigs. But when feminism takes over and all of this victim culture takes over, what you do is you break up the family. And I think that a lot of people, we come from a single mother home. So I'm telling you that it hurts you. And the people don't really understand, I don't think they understand the power of a nuclear family.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of breaking up a nuclear family, if you don't have a man at the head of your family, then these women are out here raising kids by themselves. No one's to protect them. Because to be married is to be, as a woman, is a blessing. It's good when women are married because you're protected financially, you're protected physically, you know, and the state doesn't have control over you. But when you're a single woman and you're not married, a lot of bad things can happen to you. You know what I mean? Particularly with having to raise kids all by yourself.
If you guys want to understand how welfare really works, you should really watch the movie Claudine.
Yeah.
That movie Claudine really maps out exactly what most single mothers, especially in the hood, how it works, you know, and it's just a huge problem.
But not even just the system, the mentality of what happens with women in the system. Like, here's a woman that, I mean, I don't know how many people seen the movie, but here's a woman that, is Diane Carroll's in it and James Earl Jones. But here's a woman that has, who's in the system, and she already has 6 kids by several different men. Then she meets James Earl Jones' character, and he's got 3 kids by different women.
Yeah,
that he doesn't even see that he's not even taking care of. Now these two meet and they have a relationship, and you would think she'd stop having sex, but she's not. She's literally meeting this man, going out, leaving her kids at home, and then having an intercourse. Like, honey, you already don't have enough money for. And then what's going to happen if you get pregnant by this guy?
She has to hide him.
She has to hide him in the house
because social workers come.
Because when they see a man in the house, they're taken away. The government is taking away
they
some of our money.
see that as a source of it's another source of income.
Right.
So why do you need me? Why do you need the government if you have this guy right here?
You know, and Thomas Sowell just said it. When black people get married, their poverty rate is almost non-existent.
10%.
But a manipulator can't manipulate an intact home.
Yeah.
When a person believes in God and they believe in their family and they believe in their country, it's hard to manipulate someone who's got a man who's in charge of his home and has a higher power and works hard and owns a business or owns his craft and is providing for his family. It's hard to break that man down. And then imagine it's a lot easier to break down a woman that's by herself or a man who's single too long.
And imagine that man is usually going to have friends or family and all that's the other men that are exact same way, which leads to a community that's that way.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about all this. Don't forget to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what Thomas had to say and what we were saying. We would love to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. And that's it. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye.